All right, we have had many a visit with Kevin Huerter, and the most popular thing, it's almost a bit now on the show. When Kevin hangs up after our visits, Jason and I always go, wow, he's great. Now it's playoff week. So we all have to step our game up. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, the playoff edition of the Red Velvet Lounge in a whole new location, even. That's how special it is. I'm not wearing a hat. Kevin's in a new room. Jason's, doing his thing. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Kevin. How are you? I don't even know what day it is.
All of the above. I was gonna know. Yeah, I guess it's the hat. I was gonna ask if you had a haircut or something.
I did. I did. It's playoff week. Everything's different.
Yeah.
I'm a Jason will tell you, I'm kind of a psycho. I don't know what to do. Do people say, "Are you ready for the playoffs?" I'm like, I don't know. Like I'm not playing, but you guys are probably more calm than I am. Are you? This is a normal week for you?
This is a great week. Like the last time we got 2 days off in a row was well, really 1 day off. Second day was like a mini day off. Has been great. Like this many quote unquote practice days. Being able to just kind of focus in on one particular opponent. It's nice, honestly. You could tell it's getting towards the end of the season. You're not in the grind of January, February schedule where you're playing teams 4 or 5 times a week and you're traveling this and that place. And for us, it's kind of nice being able to be in Sac. The weather's getting better. Our travel to San Francisco won't be too bad for games 3 and 4. It's a great time of year.
By the way, on that, I know teams have done different things from the Kings or the Warriors. Are you guys flying or busing?
I have no idea what our travel plans are so far. Like, because it's also we have 2 games between 3 and 4 and 4 and 5, and so I don't know if we're coming back. Like, I don't. There's a lot of question marks that are up in the air. I'm assuming we're gonna drive. I think we drove both times we went there this year. So if we fly, I'd be more surprised, even though we might. Um, but I guess that will be remains to be seen. We'll see.
I guess one thing we should get out of the way real quick. Congratulations in order to Coach Mike Brown. Saw the video of you guys honoring both he and Nimi Keita at practice, but you can see the camaraderie and you can see how happy everybody was, not just for Mike, but of course the whole staff. It's kind of their award too. How cool is that going into the year, seeing your coaches get that kind of acknowledgement?
It was cool. Yeah, like we said, you got to celebrate the small things. You got to celebrate everything along the way. It's really hard to get to the end of the season and tell yourself, right now, I'll look back and I'll appreciate. Like while you're in the moment, you have to be able to celebrate things. And Nimi deserves it. Nimi put up a hell of a year down in the G League. We were watching him. He was kind of back and forth for us. The reality is we had 4 centers already on the roster. Nimi was 5. So there's a lot of people at his position, but he's very deserving of his awards that he got down there, and I'm sure he'll get another NBA opportunity soon. Hopefully, it's with us. And same thing with Coach. Like Coach completely deserves that. I think it'd be a huge shock for anybody in Sacramento, but across the league, if he didn't clean up the Coach of the Year awards, just based on how our season has gone, where the team was last year, where the organization has been, and for him to come in and do what he did year one, he deserves it. So we had to celebrate those in practice, and hopefully those guys are continuing to celebrate tonight.
I think when we talked to you last week, it was sounding like a lot of players were going to sit out the Friday game against the Warriors. You were one, so was Monk and Fox and Sabonis. But then you guys played again on Sunday, not the whole game, but I actually thought the minutes you guys were on the floor, you looked really good. What did that, day off and then just the little bit of time together that you got with that core group kind of do for you guys as you get ready for the playoffs?
Yeah, it was big. It was, we were looking at those games. I think we were always going to play as long as we could catch the 2 seed. And so that was a big thing with Mike is, if we have the opportunity to move up and the possibility to have home court for 2 rounds instead of 1 was a big deal. And so I think originally, I think in players' minds, we expected to sit that Dallas game after New Orleans taking care of business, but we could still catch the 2 seed. And so we played that game going into the Warrior game. I know we were following along that Memphis game closely and got to the point. I think Mike just pulled the string. He kind of just made the decision. We're going to sit these guys tonight. I think it was like 5 games in 8 days or something. Just trying to be smart as we get towards the end of the season. And that Dallas game or the last game in Denver, I think a lot of us wanted to play, especially with this week off. We've talked about this before. It's important to keep a rhythm throughout the course of the season, and for us, like mentally, to go into, okay, we sat the Warrior game, for us to sit another one in Denver, then you go into a whole week of being off or being in practice, it might be tough to find yourself back in rhythm for that first game. So I think mentally it was, let's play this last game of the season. Let's continue to keep our legs at rhythm, continue to stay in shape. You're playing in that in Denver with that elevation. So I think it's just a good thing mentally to have in your mind is, all right, I played the last game. We played well in that first quarter where most of the starters were playing with each other. And I think we're smart with how we finished the season like that.
Red Velvet Lounge with Kevin Huerter, brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Kevin, I want to pick up on that. So we always go back to you talking to us during All-Star Week and talking to us about the importance of kind of keeping that rhythm. And I don't want to, when I say meaningful game, I mean for clinching purposes, etc. It's actually been a minute since you guys have played one of those games. Then you get, I assume, a day or two off. Do you feel like you're back now mentally, the coaches and you guys have yourselves back mentally where you're going to peak and be ready on Saturday?
Yeah, I do. For me, even the day we got off, I didn't take the day off. We're still in the facility, got treatment, got shots up. Even the second day, we got a lot of shots up as a team. We're in the gym getting treatment. So the off days aren't complete off days where you shut it down and you're away. Just that time of year, again, I don't want to feel out of it. Don't want to feel like the season's ending or maybe you take your foot off the gas a little bit. Like for everything now is it's a ramp up. You're trying to be smart and make sure your body is feeling good and you're in it for the long haul. Hopefully this is more than just a one series, 7 games or however you want to call it. Hopefully this is something that we're playing still for another month or two. And so our body's got to be ready for it. So you got to take those off days when you can and be smart. But I do think we're ready. We had a great last 2 days of practice. We beat each other up, scrimmaged a lot. The pace of this series, I think, is going to be played at a super fast pace, super high level. So we're getting ready for that. Kind of playing a lot of full court, the physicality of practice, going against coaches, going against players, and you try to replicate it as much as you can. So I think we'll definitely be ready, locked in for game one.
Is the challenge, I know physicality, that's been a phrase that coach has been saying the last couple of days, is the challenge to find a way to be more physical with the Warriors without fouling, or kind of reading how quickly the officials, hey, maybe that was a touch foul in the regular season, but now, okay, I can hold Klay Thompson a little bit, or do you kind of gauge, how quickly do you gauge that in a playoff series?
Yeah, I mean, the playoffs already, you got to be more physical. It's, already you see these play-in games, there's a lot more holding and handsy, and a lot of these bump fouls or blocking fouls aren't called anymore. I think it's a cleaner game. It's more of a true basketball game, in my opinion. And let's be honest here. The Warriors have seen everything. They've seen every type of defense. They've played at the highest level basketball can offer against the best players. So we're not going to go into the series and really do anything that they haven't seen before. We're not going to be more physical than teams have been in the past. But I think we can give them a different look. Like you have to bring the physicality. You have to be able to match their pace. They're obviously a very physical team. They figure out a way every year to beat you playing small ball. Looney's been playing big minutes for them this year, but they're truly, you have to beat them when Draymond's at the 5, and their movement and cutting and speed and the way they play in transition is super tough to stop. And for us, that's kind of how we've played all year. We've played out in transition with a lot of pace with Domas, who is a 5-man, but really kind of like a 0.5. So I think our play styles are very similar. They've obviously been doing it longer and been winning at a super high level. So we're not going to do anything they haven't seen, but we have to go into the series, ready to play, ready to match their physicality, ready to set the tone. Just let them know, obviously, we're here.
I want to talk to you about pressure too. A lot's been talked about this week. On one hand, the Kings, the least experience, at least as a franchise, in the postseason, and everybody, nationally questioning the 3 seed. Are they for real? Blah, blah, blah. Big lights. Will they wilt? You've heard it. And then on the other hand, though, you have the Warriors, the most experience, but they have this legacy that they're playing for. They have all these expectations they're playing for. And by the way contracts and things work, this very well could be their last run as we know it. Who do you give the edge on the pressure side?
It's a good question. We put together a really good season, but I think it's a fair thing for people on the outside to have doubts or have question marks. Like, we got to prove it at the highest level. No one has seen us play in a playoff series together against this level of competition as a group yet. So there's reason to believe that people would assume they're going to win. That's a core that's been together for a long time, that's won at a high level. but yeah, I mean, this is a team you would think that they have more expectations on their shoulders. I don't think, we're necessarily going to this series feeling pressure. It's not like we're walking in with house money. I just think we're a confident group. We're going in this expecting to win. We're a confident team. We played at a super high level all year, and but we have the appropriate fear of this team. We know what they're capable of. We know the personnel they have. I've been watching this group since I've been in high school. So, we got to take it from them. They're the champs. They're not going to give it to us, but obviously we're super confident in the people we have in the building.
Kevin, obviously it's going to come down to how you guys play, how the Warriors play, but is there any advantage that you guys have, or what advantages can you take from Coach Laux, Coach Barbosa, Coach Brown, and their connections to that group?
Yeah, I mean, those guys have been in that room. Coach Brown led their defense for, I think it was 6 years, however long he was over there. So those guys know tendencies. They know which way Steph likes to drive this way over that way. They know Clay likes to take this shot over that shot. So there's little things like that you can take away, and that we'll study and we'll get to know the little nuances. But at the end of the day, those guys are just, they're getting us ready. This is a team that's been known to step it up a notch in the playoffs. Little things that kind of give them the edge, and the way Draymond can affect the game, the way Steph can get going, the way Clay can get going, and the way Wiggins can affect the game. Like there's little things that they've seen firsthand that has made this team super successful. That it's one of those conversations like, hey, if we don't let them do this, or we don't let them get to this, or we try to take away this, like, hey, this team isn't nearly as good, so let's try to do that. And so there's little things. This team is very beatable. It's a team that's won at a high level in the past, but they're beatable just like anybody else. And so we're going to obviously do our best, and our coaches are preparing us for that.
Kevin, if we go full analyst here, as a Kings fan, one of my bigger questions is guys like Draymond and that team. They know all the tricks. They know every single trick in the book, as including that mental warfare on the floor. And it's not like people on the Kings aren't tough or anything like that. It's just you're all incredibly likable, cool dudes who don't seem to. I mean, Malik will say a few things here and there, but nobody's out there, it seems, doing that same type of mental warfare. So when the lights are on, the cameras are on, and inevitably something's going to happen, how do you counter that? How do you prepare yourself for that?
Yeah, that's big. That's actually something we've emphasized this week is just being able to keep our heads, assuming we're not going to get the benefit of the doubt with the whistle. Draymond's someone, he talks a lot of smack, but in a lot of ways he talks like that to get a reaction. And when you get that reaction, that's where he elevates his game, and then he's able to elevate everybody else around him. So there's a part of the playoffs that it is mental warfare, using the crowd, using home court, using your teammates, players, opposing players. Like there's everything that goes into it that these guys have that experience. They know how to do that. And so that has been something we've talked about this week, is keeping our heads, staying together. We have a mental health coach that he always talks about being palms down, not palms up. Palms up or when you're complaining to referees, palms down, or you're grounding yourself and you're cooling your head down. And so it's something we're aware of. We're going to attempt to do. The stakes of the playoffs are obviously, there's a lot of emotion that goes into it, but that's a part of their game that we talked about, that when other teams start to go back and forth and you're talking with Draymond, usually, that gets them going.
I know the other day, I think Coach mentioned that Barbosa spoke to the team, Dellavedova, maybe Harrison, a few people, and you've been in the playoffs too. For the guys that haven't been in it, do those conversations help, or do they literally have to be on the court in game one in that moment to really know what the playoffs are like? No,
they do help. They definitely help. All those guys had different stories. They had different experiences. LB, both as a player, as a coach, Delly as a player. Delly talked about his experience from not playing at all in the playoffs to starting and being a focal role and just keeping yourself ready. And, HB just appreciating the moment. And, he had a lot of early playoff success, and then has gone a lot of years without playoff success. So it's appreciating what we have and the task at hand, and, what's in front of us. And so all those guys have different messages that I think everybody in the room can take different things from. And those guys all have rings. So they're great people that are mentors that are in the room. And I think by design, those are why those guys are there. And Coach Brown has built this staff and built this roster to have those types of voices in the room for moments like this.
It's a playoff edition of the Red Velvet Lounge, brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Stick around. We will wrap up with Kevin Huerter as we work towards tomorrow's big playoff game, Game 1, Kings Warriors, of course, right here on Sactown Sports. We will be right back. Sorry, dude. We have like shorter breaks this time, so you got a couple more minutes. We just had to take a quick one there.
Cool.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Red Velvet Lounge, playoff edition. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube. Kevin Huerter. We were just talking about pressure, talking about coaches, conversations, playoff experiences. Let me talk to you about something you said, Kevin. We put the clip out and the fans really responded. And you said, I want people there. I've been in arenas where people are there early. I want shirts off. I'm obviously paraphrasing. And the reaction was a lot of smiles, a lot of people pumped up, and a lot of people saying, yeah, just wait till Saturday. We go back to that Utah game, the 2 offensive rebounds out to you, and then the pop on the place was just absolutely insane. I assume that's going to be very beneficial for the home team, hearing a constant barrage of that for 48 minutes, because that's what's coming for you guys.
We hope so. It's something we've heard a lot about. We're super excited for. All the longtime Sacramento fans have talked about this playoff atmosphere, what it used to be like. LB, he talked about that in his speech, that he remembers coming and playing in Sac, and it was one of his top 5 places he liked to play. And so we've heard a lot about it. None of us have been able to experience it yet. And I know we're super excited.
And this just has a unique nature. Dave and I have been talking about it all week, that obviously there'll be Warrior fans in the building, way more Kings fans, but there'll be Warrior fans there. But the fact that when you do go to San Francisco, there'll be Kings fans. I know you've had them a lot this year on the road. What has that meant to you guys, to, especially when you've won those road games and here light the beam at the end, but to have Kings fans follow you guys everywhere?
There's really nothing better, honestly, when you hear the light the beam chants in somebody else's arena. And for the most part, our fans aren't able to be drowned out. Other teams, they start playing music or their fans try to start booing or something. There's been a lot of arenas this year where they haven't been able to. And no better feeling, especially doing on somebody else's court in their gym. Hopefully it's something that we hear a couple times over the next course of the couple weeks or months.
So we get into the whole Warriors Kings thing, and Warriors are the Goliath, Kings are the David. National media is picking the Warriors almost completely. We talked about bulletin board material last week, and you said basically at this level it's not really a thing. But wouldn't you rather, in a weird way, be in the spot you are right now? Isn't nobody respects us, nobody believes in us, a strong thing to have in the locker room sometimes?
It can be. It's really not something we have put as a group, as a team, too much focus on. It's not like we're playing clips at the start of film or we have quotes in the locker room of this guy on ESPN said this or this. It really hasn't been for us. Like I said, our body of work over the whole course of this year and being extremely deserving of this 3rd seed. I think we feel really good about having the first 2 games at home, hopefully being able to get off to a good start in this series. A team that struggled to win on the road for most of the year, and then having the opportunity to go do it in their gym 3 and 4. We're confident as a group what we have in the building. I don't want to sit here and say we haven't heard the noise from the outside, but it's not something that we're necessarily using as motivation.
Kevin, there's you guys get so locked in on an opponent. I'm sure you're so dialed in on all the tendencies. But what you guys have done so well this year, in my opinion, is focus, but also have some fun. I mean, you guys have become really a family and a team. Has there been time for fun in a pretty stressful week getting ready for a big series? Have you guys had any fun?
Not too much. It hasn't been, it hasn't been super business-like, but there's a focus level. There's an urgency of these practices. People being dialed in. In some ways, they felt like training camp. 2-hour-long practices, a lot of film, a lot of teaching. Working on technique. Just different things that maybe we weren't doing over the course of the regular season. That now that you have the time and you're locking in on one opponent, you're able to do. So it's been fun. It's been nice to get the time off. We're always going to have fun as a group. I think one of the better parts about being in the playoffs is, the way your team comes together, even the guys that are on the bench that aren't playing, the way that they're into the game, and, the huddles seem to get tighter. Even when you're on the road, it's just everybody's so into the game that, the team atmosphere, the team camaraderie really comes together where, it's not like you don't have it over the regular season, but when you have 82 chances and, every game kind of feels the same, especially on a road trip, the energy could just get a little stale where, the playoffs, it brings a new life, brings a new energy that everybody's just super into it. And so I think if we're having fun, it's the fun of the energy and the nice weather that, April has been been giving us over the last couple of days.
Kevin, there's so many different storylines. We could spend 5 hours talking about every single one, and I could go down every player on the roster pretty much and talk about different reasons why I'm excited to see him in a playoff situation. But I want to ask you about your teammate, De'Aaron Fox, probably going to win the clutch award in a landslide, or at least he should. This is his first year in the playoffs. As you know, drafted by this team, has been here many, many, many years, and now he has an opportunity to shine in the playoffs. This is a dumb question. Obviously, you're not going to say no here, but expand if you would. Doesn't his game really seem like it's designed for the playoffs in some ways?
It is, and that was something I was super excited about pretty early on in the season, is his ability to simply just go get a bucket, and that's super important. Like, it's probably the most important thing in these playoffs. Like, in a lot of ways, the best player on the best team, their teams find a way to advance. And a lot of these games come down to, can your best player make plays at the end of the game or go get you a bucket? And time again, over the whole course of the season, De'Aaron has been able to do that for us, where you put him in a one-on-one situation, he gets to his spot, he rises up, he knocks down a shot. And if anyone's seen these playoff or these play-in games so far, the last 5 minutes of every game is, let's target this matchup and let's let our best player go to work. And in a lot of ways, that's where it comes down to, is our best player better than your best player? And for most of the season, our best player has been better. And, we feel good about that, especially with Domas. So Domas it's different than De'Aaron. De'Aaron's the guy at the end of games we give the ball to and say, hey, go get us a bucket. Domas is the guy that you look up at the end of the game and he's got a triple-double, and his fingerprints are just all over that win. And so, having both those guys is super valuable. But specifically talking about De'Aaron, I think just having a player of his caliber just be able to go get you a bucket one-on-one in a high-pressure moment at the end of the game is something that you need to be able to advance at this time of year.
Another teammate question. He seems so unflappable. I don't know if anything phases Keegan, but I mean, this is a big stage for him. I don't think the moment's too big for him. How do you think the rookie will handle this opportunity?
I think he'll be fine. He's answered the bell at every stage, had a lot of expectations on him since he got drafted, starting out with an MVP in Summer League, breaking rookie records, 3-point records over the whole course of the season, playing, I think it was 80 out of 82 or 79 out of 82 games, being in there every night. Keegan's answered the bell at every turn. So I'm sure he'll be ready. He's an emotionless guy. I've never seen the moment get too big for him in my experience with him so far. But it'll be great. Hopefully this playoffs, just like everybody, brings out the best in us.
Wrapping up with Kevin Huerter, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on the playoff edition of the Red Velvet Lounge. A couple more here. I want to ask you about this. Something we were talking on the show the other day. Rhythm and pace, and specifically with the Warriors. We were talking about how you can have a 15-point lead on the Warriors. In fact, it seems like more often than not, somebody has a 15-point lead on the Warriors, and you look up in a minute and a half, and Steph and Clay catch fire, or Jordan Poole, and it is gone. We talked about the mental aspect of the playoffs, but how important is it to understand rhythm breakers and keeping them off those big, big runs?
Yeah, it's huge. That's the reason they're so dangerous, is because it feels like they go on those types of runs where 3-pointers feel like 8-pointers. And like you said, all of a sudden you're in a dogfight. You're halftime, third quarter, you're neck and neck going against each other, and they go on a run, and you look up and it's 11-point game. Those are going to be huge for us to limit in this series, especially in their building. When they get their crowd into it, their home record is what it is for a reason. They go on these special type of runs, and they have the personnel to do it. They shoot a lot of threes. They play really fast, that if they all start hitting at the same time, it could be super tough to stop. So that'll be key. Just another thing in this series that we're aware of. I'm going to try to do our best to slow down.
Your family coming out for this? They tracking you in the playoffs?
They'll be out here. They got a one-way ticket out to Sac, so they're in it for the long haul.
Nice.
Awesome. Listen, you already given us enough of your time for sure. You've been so great all year. I hope we have about, what would it be, about 8, 9 more of these as we head on to the finals. But I'm sure if Coach or anyone else was here, they'd say, keep your eye on the game in front of you. We appreciate it. I'm going crazy all week, Kevin. I admire your chill demeanor, and we'll all be watching and shirts off and freaking out and purple hair in it on Saturday.
There we go. Can't wait for it.
That's Kevin Huerter on the Red Velvet Lounge, brought to you by Jiffy Lube. We will be right back.